The rain outside was heavy, falling in silver lines across the dark landing pad. Captain Ray Carter was almost asleep in his small outpost cabin when a deep metallic knock echoed through the walls. It wasn't the kind of knock neighbors made. It was slow, heavy, and full of purpose. Ray opened the door and froze. A towering alien stood there, almost twice his height, wearing a long dark cloak that dripped with rain. The creature's skin shimmered like polished stone, and its golden eyes glowed faintly in the shadows. Ray recognized him immediately, the alien Baron, ruler of one of the largest trade syndicates in this sector. The Baron said nothing at first. He simply held a large crate in his massive hands. The box was black, reinforced with glowing blue locks that pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat. Strange alien symbols ran along its surface, none of which Ray understood. Finally, the Baron spoke in a deep, rumbling voice. "For saving my life, this is yours." Before Ray could reply, the Baron placed the box on the floor and turned away. His long cloak trailed across the wet metal ground as he disappeared into the night, leaving no sound but the falling rain. Ray stared at the box. It was heavy. He could tell just from looking at the way it dented the landing pad's surface. Carefully, he dragged it inside. The moment the door shut, he felt the silence wrap around him. The glowing locks hummed softly. Ray knelt beside it, trying to find a latch or switch. The box seemed designed to open only for someone who dared to touch the locks in the right sequence. He pressed one, and a metallic click sounded. Then another. A low vibration ran through the box, and for a moment Ray thought he heard movement inside. He stepped back, hand hovering near his blaster. The final lock gave a sharp snap, and the lid rose slightly on its own. A faint light spilled out from the narrow opening, and with it came a sound, soft breathing. Ray pushed the lid open. Inside, curled up and trembling, was a young alien girl. Her skin was pale with a faint blue glow under the surface, and her long silver hair clung to her face as if she had been inside for days. A thin metal collar was locked around her neck, displaying alien script that shifted slowly like liquid. Her eyes opened, silver, bright, and filled with fear. She flinched, pressing herself into the corner of the crate. Her voice was barely a whisper, yet it cut through the silence. Ray Carter. Ray's heart skipped a beat. She knew his name. He didn't move, afraid she might panic. "Who are you?" he asked softly. The girl's lips trembled. Her gaze darted toward the door, as if expecting someone to storm in. "They gave me to you," she said, her voice breaking. "But you must not keep me here. If they find me, they will kill us both." Ray didn't move for a few seconds. The girl's voice was shaking, but her words were clear. Whoever they were, she feared them more than anything. He slowly crouched beside the crate. "You're safe here," he said. "No one's going to hurt you." She stared at him as if trying to decide whether he was telling the truth. Her hands clutched the sides of the box, knuckles pale under her glowing skin. The metal collar around her neck gave a faint electronic hum. "What's your name?" Ray asked gently. The girl hesitated, then spoke. "Sarah," she whispered. She looked small, too small to be dangerous, but Ray had lived long enough to know appearances could lie. Still, something in her eyes made him want to protect her. He reached out a hand to help her out of the crate, but she pulled back instantly. "Don't touch me," she said quickly. "Not while this is on." She pointed to the collar. "It records everything." Ray frowned. "Records? You mean someone is watching you?" She gave a quick nod. "Not just watching, tracking. They know where I am. They know I'm with you now." That sent a cold chill down Ray's spine. If she was telling the truth, he had just been marked too. He glanced toward the door. The rain outside still hammered against the metal walls, but in the distance, thunder rolled. No, not thunder. That was the deep growl of ship engines. Sarah's silver eyes widened. "They're coming." Ray grabbed his blaster from the table and shut the box, hoping it might slow them down if they broke in. "Why would the Baron give you to me if you're in danger?" he asked. She shook her head, trembling. "Because he doesn't want me alive. And he knows you'll try to protect me." When they kill you, they'll take me back. Ray felt his jaw tighten. He wasn't the type to walk away from someone in need, but this wasn't just danger, it was a death sentence. A loud thud shook the door. Sarah's hands flew to her collar. "If you want to live, you have to let me go," she said quickly. "I can run, hide. Maybe they'll leave you alone." Ray didn't answer. His instincts screamed at him that if he let her go, they'd kill her before she made it 10 steps. Another thud. This time, the metal frame groaned under the impact. Ray made his choice. "Stay behind me," he said, moving toward the door. "If they want you, they'll have to go through me first." Sarah's lips parted in shock. For a moment, she looked as if she might cry. But instead, she nodded and stepped behind him, her hands gripping the back of his jacket. Outside, the engines roared closer. Whoever was coming, they weren't here to talk. The pounding on the door finally stopped, replaced by the sound of footsteps moving away. Ray kept his blaster ready, listening. After a few moments, the hum of engines faded into the distance. Whoever it was, they had left for now. He turned to Sarah. She was still standing behind him, her hands clutching the collar around her neck. Her breathing was fast, her silver eyes darting to the windows as if she expected another attack. "They'll be back," she said quietly. "They never stop until they have what they want." Ray lowered his weapon and moved closer to her. "Tell me what they want," he said. For a long moment, she didn't answer. Then, with a small sigh, she sat down on the floor, pulling her knees close to her chest. "I was born in the high clans," she began. "My family, we had power. Too much power. When the Baron rose to control the trade routes, my people refused to obey him. They wanted war. But before war began, he took me." Ray frowned. "Why you?" Her voice dropped lower, almost a whisper. "Because I know things, secrets about him, about his alliances. I heard them when I was small. I didn't understand them then, but now I know they could destroy him." She tapped the collar. "This is not just to keep me from running. It records my words, my movements. If I speak the truth, it sends the information to him instantly. He can kill me anytime he wants." Ray's eyes narrowed. "So why give you to me?" A bitter smile touched her lips. "Because humans are seen as reckless, impulsive. He thinks you'll try to protect me, and when you fail, I'll be dead without his hands getting dirty. No one will blame him, only you." Ray leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his hair. This wasn't a gift, it was a trap, a dangerous one. If he sent her away, she'd die. If he kept her, he'd have the Baron's enemies and the Baron himself after him. "What happens if they take you back?" Ray asked. Her eyes went cold. "I disappear. No one will ever see me again." Silence filled the room. Outside, the rain eased, but the air still felt heavy, tense. Ray finally stood. "Then we can't let them take you back." Sarah looked at him in surprise. "You'd fight for me? You don't even know me." "I know enough," Ray said. "And I don't hand over people to killers." For the first time, a faint warmth appeared in her expression. But it faded quickly as her gaze turned toward the dark window. "They'll send hunters next," she whispered. "And hunters never fail." Ray checked his blaster's charge and tightened the straps on his jacket. "Then we make sure this time they do." The morning came with an unnatural stillness. No rain, no wind, just the hum of Ray's old ship parked outside the cabin. Sarah hadn't slept. He could tell by the way she sat at the table, arms wrapped around herself, eyes fixed on the floor. Ray placed a steaming cup in front of her. "Drink. You'll need your strength." She glanced at it but didn't touch it. "They'll find us soon," she said quietly. Ray didn't argue. He knew she was right. The Baron's hunters were efficient. Once they marked a target, they didn't give up. The problem was, this time the target wasn't just Sarah. By keeping her, Ray had painted a bright red circle on his own back. As he checked the ship systems, a sharp ping echoed through the comms. He frowned and tapped the screen. A coded message flashed in alien script. The translation came seconds later. "Runaway asset located. Large bounty for live return." Double for immediate delivery. Sarah's face went pale. They've announced the hunt, she whispered. Ray cursed under his breath. That message hadn't been sent to him. It had been sent to every hunter and mercenary within 50 light-years. The entire sector would now be chasing them. He turned to her. We leave now. Sarah stood quickly. Where will we go? Somewhere they won't think to look, Ray said. You mentioned a place, a station, yesterday. Her silver eyes widened. The Haven Station. But it's deep in enemy space. To get there, we'd have to cross the Red Belt. No human ship has done that in years. Ray smirked. Good thing I'm not most humans. Before they could move, a shadow passed over the cabin. The sound of engines roared overhead, shaking the walls. Sarah's head snapped toward the window, fear flashing across her face. They're here, she breathed. Ray grabbed his blaster and slung his pack over his shoulder. Then we're leaving through the back. They ran out the rear hatch, boots splashing in the muddy ground. Behind them, a sleek black dropship landed, its engines kicking up clouds of dust. Armored figures stepped out. Alien bounty hunters, their faces hidden behind featureless helmets. Ray and Sarah reached the ship's ramp just as the first blaster shot hissed past them, scorching the metal beside Ray's head. He returned fire, hitting one of the hunters square in the chest. The figure dropped, but two more rushed forward. The ship's engines roared to life. Ray slammed the ramp controls, pulling Sarah inside. Strap in, he shouted. As the ship lifted off, more shots followed them into the sky. Through the rear camera, Ray saw the bounty hunters shrinking into the distance, but he knew this was only the first wave. Sarah sat in the co-pilot's seat, breathing hard. They'll keep coming, she said. Ray tightened his grip on the controls. Let them. I've been hunted before. The stars stretched into long lines as Ray's ship jumped to light speed. For a moment, there was only the quiet hum of the engines and the flicker of navigation lights on the control panel. Sarah's hands were still gripping the armrests. They won't stop, she said. Bounty hunters never do. Ray kept his eyes on the screen. Then we make sure they can't catch us. But the warning chime sounded almost instantly. The radar showed 3 red blips, fast-moving ships in pursuit. They had already locked on. 3 of them, Ray muttered. Small interceptors. Fast, but not built for long fights. Sarah leaned forward. You can't fight them head-on. They'll shred us before we reach the Red Belt. Ray gave her a quick glance. Then we don't fight. We run smart. He cut power to the main engines for a second, making it look like the ship was stalling, then suddenly diverted full thrust into the side boosters. The ship lurched hard, slipping out of their targeting range. The hunters adjusted quickly. Blaster fire streaked past the cockpit, glowing red against the blackness of space. One bolt hit the rear plating, shaking the ship. Warning lights flashed on the dashboard. Shields at 60%, Ray said through clenched teeth. Sarah's voice was tight. We won't survive if we take many more hits. Ray activated a hidden switch under the console. Hold on. The ship's nose dropped sharply, sending them diving toward a massive asteroid field, the infamous Red Belt. Huge rocks, some the size of cities, floated in chaotic patterns. Bright flashes of static energy sparked between them, the result of ancient mining accidents that had left unstable energy pockets. The pursuing ships hesitated at the edge. Only fools flew into the Red Belt without a death wish. Tell me you know what you're doing, Sarah said, her eyes wide. Ray grinned faintly. I don't. That's why it'll work. The ship weaved between spinning rocks, slipping through narrow gaps where one wrong move would mean instant death. The hunters followed, but the first one clipped an asteroid's edge. Its ship spun out of control and exploded in a burst of fire and debris. One down, Ray said. The second hunter kept close, matching Ray's movements. Sarah pointed ahead. Energy pocket. Ray banked hard to the left. The hunter flew straight into the crackling blue field, and its ship's systems fried instantly before it vanished in a blinding flash. Only one remained, stayed far back, cautious. Ray pushed the engines harder, the ship rattling under the strain. Finally, they burst out of the other side of the red belt, leaving the last hunter behind. Sarah exhaled in relief. You actually did it. Ray smiled faintly but didn't relax. This was only the warm-up. The Baron's not sending just bounty hunters next time. He'll send something worse. Hours passed since they escaped the red belt. The ship floated in the shadow of a small moon, hidden from scanners. Ray worked at the control panel, running repairs, while Sarah sat nearby, staring at the collar on her neck. He finally broke the silence. We need to talk about why the Baron really gave you to me. Sarah's eyes shifted to him, but she said nothing. I've been thinking, Ray continued. The Baron could have kept you locked away. Instead, he hands you over to a human who saved his life. That doesn't make sense, unless giving you to me gets him something he wants. Sarah's voice was quiet. It does. Ray stopped working. Go on. She looked down, fingers brushing the cold metal of the collar. Inside my mind, there is information, codes, trade routes, hidden supply caches, the names of his secret allies. I didn't ask to know these things. I was a child when I overheard them. But once I understood, I became a threat. Ray frowned. If you're such a threat, why didn't he just... He stopped himself from finishing the sentence. Because killing me himself would bring questions, Sarah said. The high clans would demand answers. But if I'm given to a human in the outer sectors, and then I disappear, no one will point the finger at him. Ray leaned back in his chair, jaw tight. So I'm the fall guy. He expects me to die protecting you, and then he wins twice. You're gone, and I'm blamed. Her silver eyes met his. Yes. Ray stood, pacing the small cabin. I should have seen this coming. You still have a choice, Sarah said softly. If you leave me somewhere, anywhere, he'll call off the hunters. You'll be free. Ray stopped and looked at her. Free? No, that's not how I work. For the first time since he met her, Sarah's expression changed. Just a small flicker of hope. But it was quickly replaced by worry. Then you have to understand, he will send his personal guard next. They are not like bounty hunters. They don't take prisoners. A sudden beep cut through the air. Ray checked the console. A message had been intercepted, encrypted, but not enough to hide the sender. It was from the Baron. Ray opened it, and the alien's deep voice filled the cabin. Captain Carter, you have something of mine. This is your one chance to return her. Do so, and I will forget your mistake. Refuse, and I will erase you from existence. The message ended, leaving only silence. Sarah's hands trembled. He knows exactly where we are. Ray walked to the controls, powering up the engines. Good. Saves me the trouble of finding him. The engines roared as Ray's ship broke from the moon's shadow, heading straight toward the Baron's flagship. The massive vessel floated in orbit like a dark fortress, its surface covered in glowing runes and heavy cannons. Most pilots would run at the sight of it. Ray pushed the throttle instead. Sarah's voice was tense. You can't fight that. It's suicide. Ray glanced at her. Maybe, but I'm done running. The Baron's guards noticed their approach. Swarms of smaller fighters launched from the flagship, forming a deadly wall in front of them. Hang on, Ray muttered. He dove into the formation, weaving between enemy ships. Blaster fire streaked past, shaking the cockpit. He fired back, taking out 2 fighters, but the rest closed in fast. Sarah grabbed his arm. I can end this, she said. But you have to get me close. What are you talking about? She pointed to her temple. The codes I carry, they're not just information. They can shut down the Baron's entire fleet. But I have to transmit them from inside his network. Ray didn't hesitate. Then we're boarding. He steered toward the flagship, dodging blasts until the docking clamps were within reach. The ship shuddered as it latched on. Ray grabbed his blaster and handed Sarah a small transmitter. Stay behind me, he said. They moved through the metal corridors, alarms blaring. The Baron's guards closed in, towering in black armor. Ray fired with precision, dropping them one by one as they advanced toward the central command chamber. The doors slid open, and there he was, the Baron, taller than Ray remembered, his golden eyes gleaming with contempt. "You should have left her to die," the Baron growled. Sarah stepped forward, fear gone from her face. "You should never have underestimated a human." Before the Baron could move, she slammed the transmitter into a console. Alien symbols flashed across the screens, and the ship's lights flickered. One by one, the fighters outside went dark, drifting powerless into space. The flagship's weapons shut down. The Baron roared in rage, lunging toward them. Ray stepped in his path, firing a single shot into the floor at his feet. "It's over," he said coldly. They retreated back to their ship as the flagship systems collapsed. Engines failing, weapons dead, the Baron was finished. Minutes later, they were back in open space, the enemy fleet scattered and broken. Sarah removed her collar, letting it fall to the floor with a heavy clang. She looked at Ray, her silver eyes softer now. "You didn't just save me. You saved everyone he would have destroyed." Ray smiled faintly. "Guess that means you're free now." She hesitated, then asked, "And if I don't want to leave?" Ray's hands rested on the controls. "Then you're welcome to stay." The stars stretched before them as the ship jumped to light speed, carrying them toward whatever came next. Together.